Good morning, everyone. I will wait a couple more minutes to see, give a little more time for anyone else to hop on, and then we will get started shortly. All right, we'll wait probably one more minute, and then we'll jump into this week's webinar. All right, so it looks like we got a decent amount of people in here so far. We got Gabriel from South Florida. Myself and Juan, we're both in our corporate office in Southern California. Looks like we got Timothy from Chicago. Where else? Where else do we have people calling in from today? We got West Coast, East Coast, and kind of Midwest so far. Got someone from Vegas, another SoCal. All right. Another East Coast, Charlotte. Got a little mix. We just need some maybe Northeast and Northwest, and we're kind of covered. Maybe a little Southwest as well. But I appreciate everyone hopping on today. Again, we do these webinars every Wednesday at this time, same time every week. The idea is to kind of go through best practices and utilizing different parts of our tool. If you've had any experience, which I'm assuming most people have with our tool, there's a lot in there. And so it's easy to overlook different parts of it, maybe get lost at times, especially if it's your first time. And so how we set these up is whether you've used Annuities Genius for 5 years or this is the first time you've ever been exposed to it. We kind of have our content set up so that it's going to be useful to you regardless. And so if it's your first time, or if you've been here to all the webinars and kind of are a veteran, so to speak, using our tool, hopefully you find value in this. As you can see, we have our webinar chat, and so feel free to ask questions along the way. Juan will probably answer a lot of those like as I'm going. I'm probably not going to pause a lot initially through questions. I may, depending on kind of how they could pop up, but if you have questions throughout the first part of it, for the first 10 minutes, I'm going to go through kind of one tool in particular, and then obviously ask questions along the way. We also will have a Q&A at the end as well. So if you wanted to ask questions at the end and hold it, that's totally fine too. Before I jump into it, I have a couple polls that I want to go through and just ask. And so I'm going to launch this first one, which is, how do you generate leads now? Just out of kind of curiosity and see how what's working, what's not. Go ahead and go through this first poll on how do you generate leads currently. Kind of wait like 30 seconds, give everybody a chance to go through it, and then I have one other one after this. All right, so I'm gonna end this first one. Excuse me, I gotta sneeze again. Actually, no, I'm good. So the first one is how do we generate polls? It looks like we have buying leads, as one. Google Ads is number, so I would say number one is going to be other. Number two is buying leads. Number three, Google Ads, and then we have a couple on Meta Ads. So a little mix right there. And then I'm going to launch this other one, which is qualified leads. So this is basically like out of 10 leads, how many of those would you consider qualified leads? And that can be from all of your different lead gen avenues. I mean, obviously, if it's like a referral or something like that, that's super qualified. Or just curious out of the quality of leads that you're seeing in, that you are getting in, like what would you consider qualified? And I would say qualified defined as like someone actually looking at purchasing an annuity, not just asking for information or anything like that, but looking for a genuine quote and interested. All right, so I'm going to end this poll, and it looks like don't know is the most popular one, and so we can that's good to know. And then it looks like number two is 1 to 3, and then a tie for 3 to 6 and 7 to 10. All right, that's good. So that's kind of a question that we always hear are, obviously, how can I get more leads, especially if you're new? That's a top concern. And then two, once I'm getting those leads, how can I get better quality leads? If you had a chance to tune in last week to our special, obviously we had our regular webinar last week, but we also had kind of a lead gen webinar on some of the tools built into Annuities Genius to help that. We post most of our webinars on our YouTube page. And so if you go to just YouTube and you type in Annuities Genius, you'll find most of our webinars in the past on there that you can go into and see. Let me share my screen and we'll jump into what we're going to cover today. All right, so I'm going to pull up my dashboard. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. As I mentioned, there's a lot on here. So I log in, especially if this is your first time, it can be maybe a little bit overwhelming because I have my dashboard and I have all these other options. And if I'm not super familiar with, what's what, it's easy to get lost. And so one thing I'll point out kind of just out of, if you are new, when you log into our tool and you go into the top right-hand corner and it has your name, if you click on your name and go to training, there's a handful of training videos that are really helpful and useful that you can go through to get more familiar with the tool that I would recommend. And then also when you go into the actual page that you're, in this case today, we're going to focus on the income rider calculator. You can see tutorial up top. If I click on tutorial with the little box, it actually opens up a training video about that specific page. So I feel like that's super helpful. So I would recommend that even if you've used the tool and you're not familiar with one of the features, I would try that tutorial and that'll kind of give you a quick overview. But today, kind of the thing I want to focus on is the income rider calculator. This is probably the most popular calculator that we have, or we see our current client base using, because it's pretty simple. Income usually is at top of mind for most clients. And so we want to have something that's easy to use and provides value really easily. And so if I come into here, I'm just going to kind of explain the layout of this and then go through kind of the navigating the tool itself. You'll basically see on the left-hand column, I have the different filters set up. And so right now, I have any carrier, any rating, any premium bonus, all these options are open. So I've kind of opened it up so I'm not filtering it down too narrow. If I needed to, I can just come in and say, hey, I only want A+ rated, or, I only want, A- and above, and I could easily put on that filter as needed. I'll just keep these all open right now. Up top, it says I have, basically you can see John, and that's the current client that I have selected. And so you can see if I go to the very top, I have all my clients right here and I've selected John. So that's just automatically going to populate the first one onto this page so that I'm going to be working on his case specifically. If I needed to add a new one or change something right here, you can see if I hover over each option, it shows what it does. So I can add a new case. I can switch cases. So if I tap on that, it has all my clients currently that I have in the system that I can easily switch to. The state John's in, the current dollar amount that we're working with, and then the funding source. And so I could easily change the funding source. So let's say that John, like I've met with him, and let's say he's like, hey, I just moved to Arizona, so I'm now going to update Arizona. What that's doing, that's just updating which annuity options are available in that state. And let's say now he's like, hey, I just moved and I actually have a $200,000 rollover IRA that I want to look for options. So now I can select that, and now it's working off of that case specifically, and I can easily pull up different options as needed. So that's just kind of getting the client case set up and kind of the specifics to that, and making adjustments as needed too. If I come down, I have rider features, and again, what's cool is I just hover over each option, and it gives me in a black box basically an explanation of what's going on. I'm not going to spend each time going through each of those. I'll kind of let you do that on your own as you're messing around with the tool. I really want to mess around kind of the value of utilizing the tool with getting into recommendations on specific products. So let's say that again, we go into John, and he has this $200,000 rollover IRA that we're working with. And you can see John's 58. And let's say that after my conversation, he doesn't need to touch this rollover for 10 years. So I have this scale right now, and this basically is when the income needs to start. And so he has $200,000 in this, again, kind of going over the scenario. He has $200,000. He doesn't need income for, let's say, 8 years until he turns 66. And I'll just slide the scale. What's that's doing is that just basically telling the system that it's going to defer income for 8 years, and it will rerun the numbers on what guaranteed amount he could get based off of what we selected. So in this case, I'm solving for income, what that monthly or annual amount's going to be. So I can switch annual to monthly figure amount. I'll just go monthly to keep it easy. And then payout type, is it just for him? Is it a female, so we're looking at someone else, or is it joint with his spouse on how he wants that guaranteed income? So we'll just assume in the payout type is going to be himself in 8 years. Now you can see super easy. It has all the different products that would get him guaranteed payouts, and it's obviously going to start with the highest one first. So from here, let's say, hey, you know what? Not necessarily super comfortable with this B++. I'm not contracted, let's say, with V-Star, and so I'm going to go with this Ready Growth product right here with TruePath Income. And you can see here's the guaranteed amount. And so you can easily toggle through and get a list view on those guaranteed amounts. And so again, simplicity is kind of key when it comes to that. What I really like about this feature, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory and nothing like, mind-blowing with this. It's really easy to kind of, list different products as needed. I like to tell a story when I'm presenting to clients, and I feel like that just adds a lot of value, and it makes your product recommendations a lot more pertinent to their scenario. So let's say I've gone through kind of like my questionnaire. I've gone through kind of suitability. I know his, retirement portfolio, and right now we're solving for income. And let's say that we know that John, in this scenario, his expenses are $6,000 a month, and he needs to get $6,000 of income every month. Based off of what we've talked about, we know that he gets, $1,000 from a pension and $2,000 from Social Security. So he needs $3,000 of guaranteed income every month, is what he's solving for. And I know what his current portfolio is. So let's say now I'm going to go and I'm going to select solve for premium. Once I do that, I'm going to say his desired monthly income is $3,000. That's what our target and goal is. let's say that his income age when he wants to start, let's say that it's 10 years. So he plans on, not needing to take this income for 10 more years. So it's 68. So now I know I have 10 years to defer that payment. What it's solving for now is how much money, what's the premium he would need to put in a product to get that target $3,000 a month, a guaranteed rate. So now if I scroll down, it's going to give me these options right here. So backing up a little bit, the reason I like this tool so much is now I'm not just recommending a product for, income. I'm solving his problem of $3,000. How he's going to get that? When I'm like, okay, John, it looks like to get that $3,000, here's our options. I really like this V-Star product. It's an A- rating, da 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 da. In order to get that guaranteed, we need to put in 215,000 and change. So let's call it 216,000. That's a lot easier sell now because I'm not just throwing out that number because I think that's what we need to do. That's his guaranteed rate. That's going to get him exactly to where he needs to be at $3,000 a month. Now I know with that 3,000, his Social Security, his pension, he's at 6,000, kind of, solution right there, ready to go. What we've seen with agents that have been able to build that story, when I go to close him or basically transition to close, it's a lot easier now because I know the reason we're doing this is because you need $3,000 and we're doing that. And so now it's not necessarily like a sale. You're basically just a consultant getting him to his goal, and you've painted a picture on why we're doing this product with this amount. It's very clear. So now, like backing up from like a sales pitch standpoint, typically reps that are able to do this or agents, their close rate is a lot higher because they've basically gone through this journey on why we're doing this product, where it's taking us, and it's a lot easier to get this deal across the finish line. So that's one thing I really like about this calculator tool specifically, is it's super easy, it's super simple, but it allows you to still kind of not just be a product kind of pitch person. It allows you to make recommendations based off of specific needs that client has. And that's, if you tuned into the last webinar that I did 2 weeks ago with some of the questionnaires that we have, it's the same thing. Our tool obviously does quoting, and that it does quoting, it does a lot of other things. But what we're trying to really do is have a sales enablement tool that kind of basically allows you as an agent or advisor to be better at your job and kind of and like I said, enable you to do a better job, make good recommendations so that, obviously you're comfortable with what you're doing, but you can close more and obviously make more money. That's kind of the reason that you're working. And so now that we have these options, kind of jumping back into the tool specifically, let's say it's like, hey, you know what? I like that. Let's look at more information about this V-Star. If I come over here, you can see I have these little 3 boxes. If I hover over its action menu, if I tap on that, it now shows a bunch of different options. So I can go right into illustration. So if I click on illustrate, it'll pull up the illustrator and I can go through that. I can save it. So I can basically save it for the client and it'll start out. I have annuity info. So super easy. If I click on that, it opens up this information box that has information about the annuity. So super easy to where I have highlights. So I can kind of go through specifics. So like, let's say he has a question on surrender. I can look at surrender schedule, or if I have a free withdrawal, that type of thing. If I go to purchase, I can kind of see the restrictions, what type of funds, all of that, a withdrawal, different fees, different features. And so I can easily toggle through kind of the different parts of the annuity and get kind of the information that I may need. If you're set up with Firelight, I can start the e-app. So I can basically close this right now. Again, I can illustrate it. I can download the overview, and then I can also pull up that specific annuity brochure from the annuity company as needed as well. So going back to this page, so we just went through annuity info, annuity brochure, same thing. I can access the annuity brochure from here as well. I can start the e-app if you have your Firelight synced up with your IMO, and then I can see the payout rates as needed too. So I can also go into commission, and so I can see what the commission rate is as well. So in this case, looks like 7%. not not too bad actually. And so again, that's the income calculator. I can navigating here. So you log in, pretty straightforward. I can go into calculators, and then I have my income rider calculator right there to navigate there. And it's going to basically pull up that same scenario. Let's say that I'm like, John's like has a friend and he's like, hey, can you I have a buddy at work, same scenario. We both moved to Arizona. Can you give him like some information to too? I can now just come in, new case, add John's buddy, and enter in that same information. Basically type in his scenario, name, age, phone number, email. It'll open up that same page right here, and I can run his buddy's info and give him a kind of a synopsis of everything as well from when it comes to income. Again, with rider features, I can go no rider fee if they're fee sensitive or anything like that. I can click on that and that'll show me options that kind of meet those and filter out what they need to do. So again, super easy to use, but a ton of value behind kind of the why you're making the product recommendation, which ends up typically eliminating a lot of the objections or questions or hesitancy on the client potentially moving forward or not wanting to move forward or wanting to think about it. Because if you can paint the picture of how you got there and show them the path, again, typically the close rate is going to shoot up quite a bit because there's kind of a reason or a why we're making this recommendation. And so again, that's the income rider calculator. I can get there a lot of different ways. If I go into the client itself and I go into John, sometimes you can get there from depending on his scenario on if you've gone through the retirement questionnaire and done all that, I can get to income options too. But again, the easiest way to get there is just calculator, income rider calculator, and I'm there. So that's what I wanted to cover specifically today, kind of in depth going through it. It's easy to overlook this because if I come to calculators, there's basically I have all these accumulation ones. I have 2 income ones, death benefit one. But again, I would say the income one is probably, if I talk to 10 different agents and then look at calculators, 9 of them are using that the most out of anything else on the calculator side. So I wanted to make sure, especially for people that are new or haven't had a lot of experience of using Annuities Genius, to be able to utilize that a lot because it's super easy to use, but there's a ton of value in it because income is usually top of mind for a lot of individuals that are utilizing annuities within their retirement portfolio. And so let's open it up for Q&A. It looks like we have a couple minutes. I know that I think Juan has been answering questions in the chat as needed. But this is recorded, and the easiest way to find it is going to be on our YouTube page. So if you go to YouTube, type in Annuities Genius, it'll pull up our page. Typically, it takes a few days for those to get posted once they go once we do it. It's usually, I would say, probably a week behind schedule. So I think they just launched or just posted last week's on to yesterday or today. And so it may take a couple days, but they're all going to be on our YouTube channel. Other questions that you have, anything about the tool, how it's set up, anything kind of not just about this part, but anything about Annuities Genius, what we offer, kind of anything in general. All right, you guys are making it easy then, no questions. Sneak peek on Grant II. Not today. We're kind of launching it or doing our official launch in 2 weeks. And so yeah, it's pretty cool though. That's what I can say. Like I don't know if you followed around how I was navigating, but there's probably a lot of little AI features sprinkled out through my instance of my Annuities Genius just because we're testing it out. But it's going to be pretty cool when it comes comes out. So we're pretty excited about it. Awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone hopping on. Again, these are, it looks like someone raised their hand. Angela, any questions? As far as carriers, Tracy's question on how many annuity carriers you recommend contracting with. I mean, I don't think there's like you definitely want to have a few of them, but I don't think there's a sweet spot. I think a lot of it's just, making sure you're comfortable with, understanding them, good ratings. I mean, I would have, I don't more than three, I would say at least. A lot of that's going to be, do I always present with all products? No, that's a personal preference thing. I would say no, because if you're not contracted with one, or it's going to take a minute to get contracted with one and you're presenting it to a client, I don't think that's a great option, because you want to be able to transition to close. And so if I'm actually client facing meeting with someone, I would only show the ones that I'm contracted with. And how you do that is you create a deck. And so I just come up into here and I go to create a new deck. That'll then pull up all the carriers, and then you can filter the ones out on that you're currently contracted with, and then it will only show the ones that you are contracted with. So when it comes to client presentation, I would only show the ones that you do have contracts with. And for your own kind of info to see, how competitive your options are, I would go to all, and kind of on your own time to see, which ones you may be missing out on, depending on, what rates are going out there. The Firelight is all through your IMO. That's how we get that turned on with the e-app. And so that can be, you can contact us and we can work on, depending on which IMO you're set up with, on how we can do that. Percent of agents that use the CRM portion, we don't track that specifically, and so I don't know. Typically you're going to have, like, depending again which IMO you're set up with or agency, they may or may not have like a proper CRM for you to use as well. I think it's useful to have it in here, obviously, because you can easily pull up like all the different cases and it tracks everything. And so a lot of it's too is going to be, are you just doing annuities? Are you doing annuities in life? Are you doing AUM? If you're doing, multiple lines of business, you're going to probably have a proper CRM that you can manage everything. And so it's going to be case by case. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone for hopping on. Again, we do these every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. It'll vary between myself and Juan. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to our office. Our office number is on our website. It's 949-600-7707. You can also email myself or Juan with questions as well, as needed. We're happy to help. And next week we'll have Juan will be presenting. And so again, appreciate you hopping on, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon.